relationship between funk and black studies, I will say. So there's a line, one of my favorite songs by Parliament Funkadelic is P-Funk, and it says, funk can not only move, it can remove. Black studies can not only move, it can remove.
Dr. Scott Brown is an associate professor of history and African American studies here at UCLA. Dr. Brown is responsible for bringing Bootsy to campus and bringing the funk to the classrooms here at UCLA. Okay, without further ado, Dr. Scott Brown.
Thank you. Are y'all ready for the funk? Yeah! It is my honor and privilege to bring forth Mr. William Bootsy Fowler. All right, now let me just let you all know that we are dealing with a phenomenon called worldwide funk. And so we're going to take you there. That is Bootsy's, I counted like 20-something. I mean, it's so much music that he's been doing for the last 40 years, but he's definitely in the higher range of the double digits in terms of nonstop productivity. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask some questions for Bootsy. We're going to play throughout different slices of examples so that, talking about music without playing it, it's kind of like an unfunky UFO. So we got to put some chicken grease on it, and that's why we have our DJ Greg Everett from Ultrawave Music. So the first thing I want to ask Bootsy is the moment that we're in right now. So many discussions with funk veterans always talk about old school as if things are just in the past. Yeah. And I think we might be dealing with a funk renaissance, or a neo-funk moment. And so, going back to how things have developed, would you say that there's something going on when you think about Uptown Funk, when you think about the ways that newer artists are calling back to those grooves that you started?
Yeah. I think, it's like people are realizing that the seeds that were planted are beginning to grow, and they never stop. And just because things kind of went off in one way because things were evolving, these seeds are now becoming live. They're becoming flowers. And all of these young mugs, the young gen is picking, well, not all of them, but enough of them, are picking these things up, and they feeling that. It ain't just listening to it and liking it. They're beginning to feel it now, and you must feel the funk.
Yes.
Because,
yes.
And I believe that time is coming. It's still evolving, but we got people like Bruno Mars. I mean, he's like the Michael Jackson of funk, and it kind of leads the way back to what we kind of.
Okay. Now, your last album was called The Funk Capital of the World, which many of us think is the state of Ohio. That might be another conversation, we'll see. And now we got worldwide funk. Yeah. So you've been thinking about this idea of the global dimensions of the funk. Yeah. And I thought about worldwide funk, and it took me back to reading about your trip to Nigeria with James Brown. Yeah. And where you met with Fowler, right? Now, I was wondering if you could share about that, because I don't think the global side of funk has been around for a minute.
Well, it was at first, I guess it was kind of scary because we didn't know what Africa was really like. We looked at it like, okay, we Tarzan and Jane, and it's the jungle, and but it was totally different. I mean, you had the jungle thing, and but it was totally different. I mean, we got off the plane and they was bowing down to us, and it was like, whoa, and I'm just getting off of the street from doing the Molotov cocktails, and because that was back in the riot, the riot time. We was just coming off of that, and so all of a sudden James Brown got me and the guys over in this, in Africa, the mother, and it's like we are being treated like we're gods, and I'm like, and I'm 18 years old.
Wow.
So I mean, I couldn't wrap my head around it, so I just left it alone and just went through the motions, and I didn't really get the understanding of it until like years later of how powerful that was.
Now, Fowler had a club, right, that was kind of like where he could play all night. And those who are familiar with Afrobeat can hear that symmetry between the way that James Brown approaches music on the one and also what Afrobeat is doing. Did you get to feel any of those, that kind of symmetry, that overlap that was going on across the ocean?
Did I? Well, I brought back my interpretation on Stretching Out. If you listen to Stretching Out, the drumming, that's one that I had to keep in my head until I was able to actually record it.
Okay.
So that was one I said to myself that regardless of what's happening, or how long it takes, you got to do this beat, in America, and if you listen, bang, and the Africans was like, oh, seriously, and I saw that whole night. They were just, the Afro grooves and the beats, and it was like, so that's what stuck with me.
Okay.
And when I came back and we got down to the last song on the album, because it wasn't on the record at first.
Stretching Out wasn't on the record?
It wasn't on the record. We hadn't got the name of the band yet. We was in New York. I never will forget it. George and I was walking up and down the street.
George Clinton?
Yeah.
Okay.
We walking up and down the street trying to figure out, okay, it's almost there. The album is almost there, but we just need this one more, And I said, something like Stretching Out. George said, yeah, like in a rubber band. That's where we came up with the name.
Bootsy's Rubber Band.
And I hadn't even cut the song yet. So you gotta really pay attention to things around you and things that come through you, because you never know how the one is using you. I didn't know at that time what was going on, but I paid close attention because I knew I was a vessel. And you have to know, even if don't nobody else say you are, you have to know that you are a vessel, and you receive and you transmit, so don't let nobody degrade you, about who you are. You have to know. They did that to me all my life until they start realizing this fool ain't listening to nobody but and that's what I had to do. But I wasn't trying to wear nobody out. All I wanted to do was play music and have people present it to people where they can have fun. Because when I was coming up, it was like we didn't. Well, I don't even know if I should get into that.
You could stretch out.
Yeah.
It's long.
Okay. Well, when I was coming up, for us, being musicians, it wasn't about selling drugs. It was about sharing. Right? I got a joint. Puff, puff. Pass. Right. So we didn't think no further than that. We was just having fun. And then watching all of that time, from where I was at and what I was all involved in, watching the whole thing change. Now it's a big, 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 big business. But we was just having fun. Music was to bring people together to have fun.
Right.
You know?
That's the first 3 letters of funk.
That's it.
Yeah.
And I wasn't understanding nothing else. It was just, if I didn't see you having fun, then I ain't doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it ain't your fault, it's my fault. I ain't doing something I'm supposed to be doing. And it's a different way to, the funk is like making something out of nothing. You know, and you take what you got and you make it happen no matter what nobody says. You make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you don't blame people for your failures or your this, that, and the other. I mean, if we was doing that, we wouldn't be as far as we are now, which they want you to think you ain't came that far, but we have. Mm-hmm. I mean, things are being thrown at us that show us that we're not that far, but we've come a good way, regardless of what's happening now. You know, it's what we speak. It's what we speak. It's our self-expression. You know, it's what you play. It's what you say. You know, if you want to talk about drama, that's what's going to be on the highlight reel. Drama. You know, if you want to talk about feeling good, making people feel great, that's what's going to be on your highlight reel. You know, so what's on your highlight reel?
Mm-hmm. Yes,
You know?
yes, indeed.
So that's what we got to get it back to.
Okay.
Not the drama of, well, this is what he's doing, and he's messing everything up, and da-da-da-da-dee, and da-da-da. We keep talking about that. What we doing? You know, that's what the funk is all about.
All right.
The funk don't care about none of that. It just does what it has to do. You know, and that goes with each and every one of us. Mm-hmm. We have to do what we have to do. You know, regardless of the mess that you go through. I mean, these mugs that was on the out in the field, you know, picking cotton. Mm-hmm. They was singing. Mm-hmm. What the hell were they singing about? Mm-hmm. I mean, you think about that.
Yeah, the music keeps us in this space where we can imagine alternatives to what's happening. I want to ask you, thinking about just this idea of polyrhythms, a lot of people don't realize. Are there any bass players in here today? Oh, I knew we had some bass players here. But a lot of people don't realize that, before we get into the basics, that Bootsy is a multi-instrumentalist. And we like to think about certain artists sort of have branded themselves as such. Let's say like Prince, Stevie Wonder, Patrice Rushen. They're multi-instrumentalists, and so their genius is in the studio. Now, a lot of people don't realize that Bootsy plays guitar, bass, drums, a whole lot of other instruments. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play a song for you, and I'm going to let Bootsy talk about the different parts that he played in the song. I think you probably are going to recognize this one.
Everybody's gotta get the light of the sun, of the sun, of the sun.
You know what happened is they start dancing and partying, and then our job ain't good.
Right. To feel good.
That's it. Now, so how did that song? First of all, what did you play on that song, and how did that song come into fruition? Because we think about all these other things when we hear the final product. Yeah. So I want to know how that happened.
You know, at that time, well, even the time before that, George gave me the opportunity to go in and record whatever I felt, whatever I wanted to record. So, and then it was his job to pick out what groups it would go on. Like, okay, Parliament, you know, Horny Horns, Brides of Funkadelic, you know, as long as I just go in and cut tracks, But of course I had a few of them that was personal, like signature songs, And so he already knew which ones those were.
Okay.
But at one time I had to explain it to him. But other than that, it was like, so he was like, I recorded Bootzilla and Flashlight around it was in that same time. And it was, that album that, on that Bootzilla album, I needed one more song, and George needed one more song on the Flashlight album, right? And so I said, okay, you can take Flashlight. I want Bootzilla. And he said, yeah? He said,
were there titles already on the songs, or were they just grooves? What was actually there?
They were just grooves,
So what was there on Flashlight for him to listen to?
Bootzilla was, that was the monster that I was trying to, create. So I knew that was the track.
Okay.
So, but Parliament, George wanted that for Parliament. He didn't know at first it was going to be Flashlight.
Okay.
And so after, we kept messing with it, and we got Bernie in there, and,
Bernie Worrell?
Oh, yeah.
The great Bernie Worrell.
The greatest. Yeah. And it actually turned into Flashlight. I mean, everything is like, you get in there and you got everybody in there and you start mixing and matching and people start vibing off of each other. And the next thing you know, George says something, Flashlight, and the groove is playing.
So y'all were writing in this,
Oh,
so
yeah.
it wasn't like you sat down, wrote the lyrics out,
No.
Oh,
George, I'll tell you a secret about George. All he needed was for me and Catfish to play guitar with a man in the box. Because we did a lot of stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that was where his creative, lyrical thing came from.
Okay.
I mean, soon as he hear those two guitars and the man in the box, he goes straight to it. And I don't think, I know George knows this, but at some point he didn't want to admit it to himself because, it was just like magic. And I would watch that, and I knew I knew what he needed, and it was just like I used to tell him, I could do James better than James can do James. And I would tell him that. But it came a part where I was saying, George, I can do you better than you can do you. And it wasn't being like I'm bad like that. It was like I felt like I could do that. And to me it was helping him to see, okay, well, help me out on this. But it comes a time when, everything started getting cloudy, for both of us. The whole organization, everything gets cloudy.
P-Funk?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's what time it was. I mean, right after the Bootzilla Flashlight, it was like, George felt like, he could do anything, because we were getting golds and platinums. I felt like, I guess I could do anything, because people were telling us, man, anything y'all touch, man, it just, And so we start laxing, and, you stop, like I was talking to you in the back for a minute about serving two masters. We were dedicated to the music. The music was first, and presenting that to people, making them happy. Those two went together, but when you try to take that dedication and put it to someone else, like, I'm in love with this too, and I'm gonna serve this or give this as much love as I'm giving that. That's when things, and what I'm saying is we start doing that with drugs. You know, we started loving the drug more than the music. So we were serving too, because you be chasing that mug. You know, I don't care what nobody say, you be chasing that mug. We wasn't really chasing the music just came.
Wow. Now, I'm glad you used the word love, because when you think about P-Funk and like songs like Flashlight,
Yeah.
or Knee Deep, or Aqua Boogie,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You seem to be one of the few people in the P-Funk camp. Bootsy is the only one that seems to be able to write songs about love.
Yeah.
Munchies for your love. What's a telephone bill? Can't get away.
Yeah.
I'd rather be with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Vanish in our sleep. That's
Yeah.
a tight one. Physical love. All these songs, and it seems to be a departure from what was dominant in P-Funk. So I was trying to think about what was going through your head as far as distinguishing yourself from that huge ensemble of artists that allowed you to do that.
I got to give credit to George, because he knew that would enhance the whole picture.
Okay.
You know, and so he allowed me to express myself. You know, and it's like, he knew not to put no limits on me, because I was just as crazy as he was. You know? So he allowed me to do these things, you know, and so to me, that's what I want to represent. I want people to be allowed to do certain things so they can find themselves, you know. So that's what he did for me, and that's what I want to do for kids that's coming up, musicians. You know, I want them to know that they have space to express themselves.
But that's really a very powerful aspect of the new album, Worldwide Funk. If you look at all of the different musicians and artists that are on the album,
Yeah.
Even singing about love and also being able to do a funk ballad. I see you as the architect of the funk ballad.
Coming up in the street, you know, I was always, you know, hitting on somebody. You know, the brother on the street, that's what you're looking at. Okay? I might have, you know, blinged it up a little bit, but the brother on the street is sitting right here, you know. And, you know, I just, you know, I wanted to do this, and I knew nothing gonna get in my way. You know, yeah, I'm gonna hit on you. You know, I'm gonna love on you. I'd rather be with you. What's the telephone bill? Because I'm going to call you every day. You know? I mean, all of those songs came out of that kind of relationship with people. You know, and most people knew me. They knew I wasn't serious about relationships. You know, I was serious, but I wasn't to the point of being in everyday love. I mean, you know, so everybody knew that, you know, and I was really cool with it, because I grew up with all the older cats, the pimps, the players, and they be hanging on the corners, and I'm the youngest mug out there, right? So I gotta have my ear in there, you know, I'm listening, and and they love having me around. I don't know why, but I learned a lot of stuff from them, you know, and I took that and got a chance to throw it in these records, you know, and that to me is what it's all about. It's about bringing what you learn from the street or wherever you come from and expressing it in a positive way, you know, and that's what I was hoping to do. And first time I did it, people started like, yeah, we like that. So that encouragement, you know, gave me more confidence to do it.
Yeah, because that's a real departure from what funk was doing at that time,
Yeah,
for you to actually do it in the ballad form. I'd like to take a moment to just let you all hear the continuities of that style and play a song that features vocalist Callie Ushis, and that's called Worth My While. Now, there's another one on her album that's really climbing up the charts. It's got a really powerful video called After the Storm. Right? But let's play a little bit of Worth My While. So that's just a slice. And so, you know, now for the bass players in the house, I got to represent that tribe of highly evolved human beings known as bass players. Some of us have 4 strings, some of us have 5, some have 6, some just keep on adding more and more to it. But anyone who knows the history of the electric bass can literally mark a change in the evolution of the new sounds that you brought through the, I almost want to call it its own instrument, the space bass, that star-shaped bass. Now, there's one song on the Worldwide Funk album called Bass Rigged. And it has Stanley Clarke, along with Victor Wooten, and also Alicia Benaviste and Manu Gallo of Zap Mama, so 2 women bassists. And with that in mind, I wanted you to comment on, you know, where you see the electric bass going in popular music, and also the women's revolution that we're going through in funk, with more and more women mastering, you know, an instrument that, like so many others in funk, were kind of male-dominated, but we're getting a much more wider participation, both in terms of gender, age, and all different kinds of folks. So I wanted you to comment on that.
Wow, yeah. You know, I've been seeing the women thing, you know, the movement coming on for a while now. And it's like, how do I, you know, embrace that and make that a part of what's gonna happen anyway? I mean, it's gonna happen. And how do I embrace that and let it shine for what it is? And it's like, well, go get the baddest mother funkers you can find. And that's what I did, you know. And at least it's a start, you know. So Manu, she's from West Africa, and y'all will be seeing an album on her very soon. We did the video and everything. I mean, and you know, it's like real musicians. I mean, real musicians with the real musician ingredients, meaning they talk music, but yet and still, musicians are some of the best people. I mean, with the humbleness and, you know, and not, I mean, well, you got some that are arrogant and this, that, and the other, but I call real musicians are the ones that got that, you know. I mean, that's what I came up around, and, you know, and that's what I want around me. Because whatever you got around you is part of what you become. So I want to, you know, embrace myself with the people that I want to, you know, become, you know. And the women, not only in playing, well, we're talking about this bass track, but if you notice throughout the whole album, it's women, you know, and I put more women involved in it, you know. And and to me, it's like, it's that time. I mean, what are we doing? You can't fight time. You know, well, you can try it. That's what we've been doing for eons. You know, you can't fight it. So let's embrace it, you know. And I think that's the whole problem with a lot of things now. We're not embracing, you know, we want to put that over there because it don't fit your agenda or it don't fit my agenda. But for me, the new funk deal is embracing everything as the one.
Right.
I mean, it's been said, you know, I mean, I ain't making up nothing new. It's been said, come as you are. I mean, how can you come as you are and you're in Beverly Hills and you come from off the street and you open the door and, you know, you can come in? It don't work like that, you know, but it should. I mean, because that's the mug that need the help, right?
Right.
You know, but both mugs need the help. When you really boil down to it, both mugs need help. This one just happened, don't know it. You know what I'm saying? The one that got it all, he don't know he needs help. You know, and that's the problem. But see, that ain't funk. Funk know it needs everybody. That's the difference.
Yeah.
You know, and until you are or can accept you are a part of being funky, until you can embrace that, you'll always be on the outside saying that you on the outside. But you'll be the one because you don't know. You know, we know. You know, we already know that. We, you know, yeah, we misfits, we this, we that. You know, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, we all of that. Embrace us. Okay?
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. You know, and women been saying it for the longest. You know, now it's becoming evident. You know, and what we need to do is start to lift that up.
Yeah.
You know, and that's on all things. It ain't just on the women's side. It's on all things that we have neglected and pushed aside like that ain't no good. You know, that's not human. That's not this. That's not that. We all are human.
Yeah.
We all bleed. We all hurt. We all need help. So what the funk is wrong?
Yeah. And I think this the idea of breaking outside of boundaries. It strikes me as a really important dimension of funk. And also, from studying funk and teaching about it, I've become aware that there are also different, just like there's a global story of funk that you're telling, there's also regional story even within neighborhoods and within between cities. And so, you know, it's been said that there's something in the water in Ohio that makes that state so funky. But at the same time, West Coast hip hop has really been married to Ohio funk. And when you think about the songs by Slave, Roger Troutman, Lakeside, and of course you know who, that end up getting reformulated and reintroduced to so many new audiences. So I always wondered what was that connect. Now I've asked a lot of folks from out here about that, but I haven't asked any Ohio musicians how they felt about that kind of very easy connection between the West Coast and the Midwest when it comes to that funk thing.
Wow, I never really thought about that, but I knew when we first started, you know, like on that level of being with Parliament Funkadelic, and the first time we came out to LA, I never will forget it. Let me tell you what happened to us, okay? All right, I'm gonna make this as short as I can.
Take your time.
We come out to LA, we in two cars, okay? I mean, this is when we just getting started off, you know. We driving in 2 cars, all of the craziest looking mugs you ever seen in your life, okay? All right, we got Ohio state tags on the cars. Now, mind you, 11 criminals have just escaped from Cleveland, okay? And we are driving to LA, all right? By the grace of the one, we made it to LA. But soon as we get to LA, that LAPD, they had their men, and they wasn't going to even question it. It was out of the car. I mean, serious. I mean, now, you know, we had all these thoughts about LA, about how great we, you know, plus we was tripping too. And the mud, I mean, you know, it was like a movie scene. You know, they threw us out in the car, the hands up, you know, that whole thing, and, you know, I mean, completely destroyed my image of me coming to LA, right? And they actually, you know, they searched us and they found a few things, and, you know, they took us down, you know, and they did that whole thing. And then after that, we had to play the gig. Okay, so we had to act like what? You know, none of that happened. We're gonna make the people have a great time. And that's what the funk is all about.
Okay.
You know, regardless of your hardships, regardless of what you go through, the man at the door, he needs a sandwich. Okay?
Yeah.
I mean, and see, that's what the funk do. Okay? So, you know, my whole image of LA was kind of, you know, turned around because, you know, but it didn't take long before it started turning back around. Because after we got in here and the people started grooving and we started finding out like, LA is taking this really hard. I mean, the people was just so into it.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I never forget, Mavericks Flat was the first place. That was, I mean, that play, we played there for 2 weeks straight. Sold out every night.
Wow.
And, I mean, that was our introduction to LA, you know. And,
Yeah. No, I was gonna say that introduction still seems to be playing itself out because if you're on this new album, Snoop produced something with you on here,
Yeah,
right? And so did DJ Quick, right, as
exactly,
well.
exactly.
So why don't we let people hear at least a contemporary manifestation of that coming together between the two from the High on Heels?
Yep.
Okay, the song, is that Snoop Dogg who produces
Snoop and October London
Okay.
and myself.
Okay, High on Heels. Yeah. So that connection is still bearing more and more fruit. So my question is, do we have the CDs and albums here?
Yes.
We do? Okay, so we want to encourage folks who have listened and liked what they hear to make sure they stop and see my brother right here. What's your name, sir?
My name is Exact.
Exact?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, we're going to come exactly right over there and handle that funk thing. So, now, every...
Oh, let me.
go ahead. Go ahead. Please. Yeah.
Now, it wasn't last night. Night before last, Mother Snoop. She, I mean, you know, I didn't reach out to her to come out or nothing like that, you know. But I guess she felt it that she wanted to come. I don't know, you know. She came, and it was a shock. I was like, wow, Mama Snoop, you know.
Was this a show you were doing? Or?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
The players' ball.
Yeah.
Oh, the Players Ball.
And she wanted to let me know, hands on, that it was because of her that Snoop was down with the funk.
Yes. Yes.
She looked me right in my face. Now I want you to hear this, Bootsy. You know how they are. She was like, I want you to know, it was me that got my son into the funk. And see, that to me reminded me of just what we're talking about now. That's why I'm sorry I had to cut you. But
Please.
I just thought.
Yeah.
That was huge. You know, for her to, you know, to come to just want to tell me that.
Well, yeah, and it really shows how much mothers who carry the culture on their shoulders and push it forward are so central to this whole story. And that's why including so many women's voices is actually, I think, paying tribute to that reality. That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
So, you know, every, I think, 5-10 years, something comes up and people think that funk is dead or it's gone or it's pushed by the wayside. One of the questions that typically comes up when that happens is, what's Bootsy doing? In fact, there was a album you did, What's Bootsy Doing? And that kind of echoed that question.
Thank you.